SA Tourism's entire board has been dissolved following the controversial R1 billion Tottenham Hotspur sponsorship proposal. Tourism Minister Patricia De Lille has also said today that she's yet to receive any response despite the passing of a deadline when she asked the board to make representations around its standing. Meanwhile, 8 of the 11 board members we've now learned resigned in the last week, including the chairperson. De Lille says a 3-member interim body will be appointed until the permanent appointment of a board at SA Tourism. Let's speak more about this now with the Tourism Minister, Patricia De Lille, who joins us on News at Prime. Minister, very good evening to you. So when the majority of the board resigned, what did they tell you were the reasons for them quitting?
Well, there were different reasons. Between the 17th and the 13th of April, I received eight resignations from the board. Some of them also expressing their unhappiness with some of the happenings within the board. And I really have come to the conclusions in the circumstances that I do have a good cause to dissolve the board and will be doing so officially through a government gazette on the 21st of April, Friday, to dissolve the board. I will at the same time also appoint 3 board members for the interim until we can reconstitute the full board. So there will be no vacuum between the departure of the old board and the new board. And hopefully we'll be able to all work together to pull SAT right. SA Tourism received more than 50% of the budget of South African, of the tourism department. And therefore it's a critical entity for us that must work.
And were any of the resignations, I know you said some of them were unhappy with goings on within the structure, the board itself, but were any of the resignations, because you had already asked questions about the board standing, were they basically, some of them, a case of jumping before being pushed? Were they on their way out, some of them basically?
Well, I can't make that opinion or that judgment call, because some of them also expressed their personal opinions. And really, I was expecting to get a response from the chairperson of the board on behalf of all of the board members, which didn't happen. And that is why we now have to deal with 8 resignations and with complete different reasons and personal opinions about their resignation, which I can't share with you.
And let's go back then for viewers who missed your statement out today, because you had written to the board requesting certain representations. What had prompted that move from your end? Why did you feel those questions needed to be answered?
There were really 3 issues that I wanted the board to respond to give me reasons as to why I should not dissolve the board. The first one, of course, is the Tottenham Hotspur's deal, and just the procedural issues and the way it was dealt with by the board. The second one is that I'm also now concerned about the composition of the board, that the board is not fully complying with what is prescribed in the Act, fully representative of gender, race, and disability, and also in terms of qualifications that's prescribed in the Act. And then the third reason, Tebekile, was that I received a letter from the acting CEO making serious allegations about the functioning of the board, and I put that exact letter, I've also put that to the board members to respond. And that led to me starting the process of dissolving the board. But in terms of the law, in terms of administrative justice, I must allow them time to respond first. So I gave them from the 6th of April until the 18th of April to respond. And as I can confirm now that I didn't receive any response from the board as a whole through the chairperson. That never came. Instead, I got individual resignation from the board.
What did the CEO allege against this board, this now former board?
Well, there are different reasons, Thabo, that typically that I didn't want to go into because some of these are personal opinions. But for me, the fact of the matter is that only 3 out of the 11 board members remained, and therefore the board is not functional in terms of the law. They need at least 9 board members to correct. And that is why it was the right moment that, I decided that there is good cause to dissolve the board, and that is what I'm implementing now.
So, given everything that you've said and the fact that 8 of the 11 board members then quit after you had requested these representations, I wonder if you feel that this has been a missed opportunity to sift through what is allegation, what is personal opinion, and what is fact as far as what had been put forward to you as the problems.
Well, the history of the board, they were appointed in October of 2022, and until the end of March, they had more than 37 meetings. And when you look at the resolutions coming out of the meetings, you question, was there really a need to have a board meeting for instance, one decision? But also the board as a collective has already spent 2.4 billion rand of board fees. And in terms of the act, they're only supposed to meet 4 times a year. So I'm sure their acknowledgement that the way they operated was not in terms of the law. And some did express their unhappiness about how they were summoned to meetings at very short notice over the weekends. And so they're all aware that they've acted unlawfully in terms of the number of meetings. The members of parliament also are asking many questions about the operations of the board. There is also the travel to London of 4 members of the board and 4 staff members, a delegation of 8 costing the board 1.2 million rand. So there are a lot of issues where the board had to answer, and through the chairperson, but the chairperson was the first one to resign also.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder then if there are issues where these now former board members would have had to be accountable. We've just referenced, for example, the budget that was blown on meetings that are largely regarded as having been unnecessary as far as the cost, which runs into the millions. How then do we hold them accountable if there is wrongdoing that can be proven retrospectively, i.e. now that they're out of their positions, basically?
Well, I certainly will write to the Chief Financial Officer to inquire about the payroll and the tech deductions for extra income, so that we can also follow up on that, and making sure that we approach the South African Revenue Services to ensure that people are tax compliant, or that SA Tourism as an entity, that they have deducted the tax before they paid out the board members. That is still part of an investigation that we are also busy with. So in terms of the tax compliances, there will certainly be accountability. I'm not saying that they have not paid tax. I will be asking for the proof of that. So the new 3 board members that I'm bringing on, I will make sure that one of the board members has got financial experience. The second board member must have governance experience. And then the third board member must have experience and qualifications within the broader tourism industry, so that they can assist us as soon as possible to deal with all of the concerns that is being raised because we are in a new financial year already starting on the 1st of April, and we've got an annual performance agreement of what we need to implement in this financial year. So it's quite urgent, Tebekile, that we sort the problems within the board out as soon as possible.
So that has to do with governance issues, issues around the spending of money in rather questionable ways, allegedly. But there's also a report, which I would imagine you've seen in the Mail and Guardian, where they were reporting that there'd been information brought to your attention about at least 2 men on this board who'd been accused of sexual harassment, one of them on multiple occasions. What is the status of that complaint?
Well, as a new minister, my first question that I've asked from the board was, do you have any sexual harassment policy within the entity? And do you intend following the procedures within the sexual harassment policy of the entity? And I have not received a response to that. I have also not been informed as to the allegations and who are the people. I haven't seen the actual allegations. But if there are existing staff members that brought the complaints to the board, we will have to continue to investigate those allegations.
Tourism Minister Patricia De Lille, good to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time as always.